Hi again everyone. I thought I'd give you another brief walking tour of Ulistac Natural Area. This time I was going to focus on Site B, well what we call Site B. None of our maps are labelled with these. It got the name Site B from a grant because this was part of a grant project. It ran, I believe, between around 2010 and 2015. So Site B was given the name then. So most of these plants, apart from the very large trees, were planted around, well, between 2010 and 2015. The grass that I showed you to start with the purple flowers is called blue-eyed grass. This is here. So Site B has granite trails on two sides, and it has this small mulch trail that goes through the area. We try and keep it as weeded as possible, not always successfully, depending on how quickly the plants grow. This is some mule fat. And over here we have Hummingbird Sage. So Hummingbird Sage is one of the first earlier plants to bloom. It grows by underground rhizomes. It spreads quite well. So this started off as like 10 individual plants. You can see how well it spread all together here. So after this flowers, it'll die back and it'll go dormant. As you can imagine, the name suggests, Hummingbird Sage, the hummingbirds love it. Behind the sage over here we've got a flannel bush. So this is the plant with the big yellow flowers on it. We've got several of these that are visible from the street, so even if you're driving past in the car you can still get a glimpse of the yellow flowers of flannel bush. You can just hear a hummingbird over there as well, the sort of ticking sounds. Here we have a California buckwheat. What you can see there, the brown clusters, that's the spent flowers from last year. So very soon we'll start seeing the creamy coloured cluster flowers on the buckwheat, and then that'll gradually turn brown over the year. So I've got a valley oak there at the front, and then behind that the darker coloured green, the tall trees in the background, they're coast live oak. So I mentioned before that the trails are mostly maintained, or the mulch trails are mostly maintained by volunteers. If you've been to Ulistac in the last few weeks, you'll see that we have loads of weeds here. Unfortunately, we can't volunteer at the moment due to the coronavirus. So we're just going to have to put up with the weeds. This is a hollyleaf cherry. It's a native cherry. It does have fruit on it later in the year. The fruit's not as tasty as shop-bought cherries. It's very bitter and dries your mouth out. You can hear a hummingbird again there. Got a pine tree here. I'm not quite sure of the species of pine tree. This is a St. Catharines Lace. It's in the same family as buckwheat, so soon we're going to have big clusters, sort of umbrella-shaped clusters of creamy coloured flowers. You can just see last year's flower heads here, so you can see how large they are. And then once that starts to die back, it'll go a darker brown, nice chocolate brown colour. And then we prune off the seed heads, the flower heads, and then that encourages nice compact growth for the next year. If you leave it uncut at the end, it tends to go a bit leggy. So here we have some Cleveland sage. This is a low growing variety, or perhaps it's creeping sage. That's a very aromatic plant. And another Cleveland sage here. This one's a bit bigger, so maybe that last one was creeping sage and this is the Cleveland. If you look closely you can probably see some bees and insects buzzing around there. The trails have become a bit overgrown in here. Unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of weeds to pull when we get back out here properly. So Ulistac is very local for me. I just live across the street, so I use Ulistac as my place to come outdoors and exercise. This is California Saltbush. We have some much larger salt bushes in the bird and butterfly garden, but those ones are a lot older than this one. On the left here we've got coast live oak, and on the right another salt bush. And then this tree here is a California bay. So this is a lot stronger than the bay leaves you buy in the store for cooking with. It smells a lot stronger as well. So I wouldn't recommend taking a massive whiff of it because it really catches you. This is another sage. This one could possibly be a black sage, although I'm not certain. I found it quite hard to tell the sage species apart. And over here, this is a gorgeous plant. This is a dark star Ceanothus. This one's definitely buzzing with insects. I believe this is actually a nursery hybrid variety, so you wouldn't find these in the wild. But it provides a lot of colour, a lot of insect food, and it is derived from two native species of Ceanothus. So you can see this one's got very small leaves compared to some of the other Ceanothus varieties, and it's got very dark flowers. This one here is a Manzanita. The flowers are just starting to go off on this. You can see where the flowers were a few weeks ago. So I think this is a point leaf variety. You can see that we've curled round back out to the crushed granite trail. Over here we have a pink flowering currant. Again, the flowers on this one have just died back. But what we'll do is we'll head back round to the left and do a loop so that you can see a full circle. So this site over here that we're looking at now is site E1. This is part of our most recent grant. Again, you won't find the site names as I've called them on the maps. It's just what the volunteers call them to identify the different sites. This is a coffee berry. You can see the amount of grass we've got growing here. So most of this is non-native wild oak grass. So that came across with the European settlers. This is white sage. I just had a bike pass there. So this is white sage. This is a sacred plant for Native Americans. So they would use the sage and make it into smudge sticks. And they would burn it a bit like incense, and then the sage smoke was said to scare away the evil spirits and welcome in the good spirits. So this is another variety of Ceanothus. You can see it's got much lighter coloured flowers, much larger leaves, and it's a lot bigger. So it's more of a large shrub or a small tree rather than the compact shrub that the dark star Ceanothus is. I think this one's probably a blue blossom Ceanothus. I could be wrong though. Unfortunately, when a lot of these plants were put in, the plant tags that came from the nursery weren't kept, so we don't always know exactly what the plants are. None of us here at Ulistac are experts. We're all just very keen amateur gardeners, especially with native plants. So this is another sage here, purple flowers, and another lower growing Ceanothus here. You can see this one is similar to the dark star, but if I get my shadow out, it's got larger leaves and slightly lighter coloured flowers. So here you can see the larger oak trees. So they were planted before the start of the grant. The grant was given to us by Santa Clara Valley Water District. So let's head back along here. At the front here you can see your deer grass. These are a native grass species. Another currant just behind there with some fuchsia mixed in. And some fuchsia here at the front. The fuchsia flower in the fall, so it'll probably be about August time before we see any flowers on those. And then another flannel bush with a salt bush in front of it. So the very light green one at the front is the Saltbush. The large yellow flowers at the back is a flannel bush. And here we are back to the start, so we're back to the trail. So you can see we've done almost a square shape. We've gone in for two sides on this dirt trail and then come out for two sides on this granite trail. There you go. So that was what we call Site B. Hope you enjoyed the small walking tour, and hopefully you can get back out here soon. Stay safe everyone. Bye.